What's up? What's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Will Johnson. My website is uniteamericafirst.com. This day is crazy, right? There's been so much craziness happening. A lot of craziness has been happening throughout especially the last 2 years, but the last 4 years has been really, really interesting. Well, tonight, Biden is going to do his state of confusion. And before I bring it in here. All right. Biden is going to be doing his state of confusion. And I was going to play a couple of videos and stuff before we got started, before it came in, but maybe I will. But right now it's just they're waiting for Joe Biden to show up. And I'm just going to kind of do commentary on this. I probably won't play the whole thing or, allow the whole thing to go on. But I kind of wanted to talk about it. So we'll just talk about it along the way. And, maybe, what do you think? Maybe I could open up the phone lines and you can call me and talk about it as well. What do you think? What do you think? And talk about it as well? All right. All right, hold on one second. All right. Y'all can hear me, right? I'm looking in the comments right now. Y'all can hear me, correct? Is that a correct statement? Let's see. Now, you won't be able to hear this yet because I don't have any of the audio coming from that. I just turned it off. But you should be able to hear me. Should be able to hear me. I'm looking in the comments right now to see if people can hear me okay. Okay. Thank you for letting me know you can hear me. Now, again, some people say, I can't watch him. You know what? Come on. It's going to be really interesting, right? How many of y'all think that he's going to be lying? How many of y'all think he's going to be lying? I say he's going to be lying. Okay, so Joe Brand is showing up, and all the Democrats are like just in unison clapping, like those monkeys with the symbols. That's all they're doing right now. So, and they go, Mr. Speaker. And then they said, the P word associated with, I don't associate it with Joe Biden at all. But I'm willing to bet that he's going to just lie. He's going to be divisive. I would be completely shocked if he comes on there saying, we're going to stop doing all of this wokeness. We're going to bring the country together. He's going to come on here and he's going to lie, talking about all of the jobs that he created, knowing good and well he didn't create anything other than the chaos and the animosity that we have in the country. And they try to come across like they're unifying the country, like they're trying to unify everything. That's not the case. They're not trying to do that. It's the complete opposite. You hear them? It's all in there clapping. I turned the clapping off because it's kind of nauseating. It's really nauseating, to be honest with you. Oh, that's funny. Someone says, "Where's Hunter?" Do you think they're going to say anything about the classified documents? You think he's going to bring that up? Not likely. He's not going to say anything about the classified documents. You think he's going to mention that balloon? Now, I'll be really highly surprised if he actually mentioned the balloon. He may say that we were swift. We took action. We wanted to make sure that it wasn't over any populated areas before we took action. But once it wasn't over any populated areas, we were swift. He may say that. I don't know. But if he does mention the balloon, he's going to be lying, whatever it is that he's saying. Right? Wouldn't y'all agree? So he's making his way up there. Now, one of the questions that I have is, how is McCarthy going to react? How is McCarthy behind Joe Biden? How is he going to act? Let's see. So he's shaking his hand. We're going to get along. He could have gave him a fist bump like they did in Saudi Arabia, right? He could have done that. Here's a fist bump. I'm not going to shake your hand. What are they cheering for? Because he hasn't accomplished anything.
Members of Congress, I have the high privilege and distinct honor to present to you the President of the United States.
Mr. Speaker. Thank you. You can smile. It's okay.
You can smile. It's okay. You hear him?
Thank you.
Okay, here we go. The clown show's getting ready to begin. Here comes the clown show.
Mr. Speaker, Madam Vice President, our First Lady and Second Gentleman, good to see you guys up there. Members of Congress,
it is nauseating. At least it is for me. I can only imagine how it is for other people.
by the way, Chief Justice, I may need a court order. She gets to go to the game tomorrow, next week. I have to stay home. Got to work something out here. Members of the Cabinet, leaders of our military, Chief Justice, Associate Justice.
He has to stay home because he has to go through those security documents.
Court,
make sure they burn the rest of them.
my fellow Americans. You know, I start tonight by congratulating the 118th Congress and the new Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy. Speaker, I don't want to ruin your reputation, but I look forward to working with you. And I want to congratulate the new leader of the House Democrats, the first African-American minority leader in history, Hakeem Jeffries.
And Hakeem Jeffries is a total tyrant. If he ever becomes Speaker of the House, we're in real trouble. I think he would be worse than Pelosi.
Congratulations to the longest-serving leader in the history of the United States Senate, Mitch McConnell. Where are you, Mitch?
Mitch McConnell. You hear that? The longest. Mitch McConnell should have been retired a long time ago. Mitch McConnell is the reason why the Republicans don't control the Senate
Chuck
right
Schumer,
now.
Another term is
He can't even get it out.
Minority leader.
Another old dog. Another one that should have never been there
this time
long.
you have a slightly bigger majority, Mr. Leader. You're the majority leader.
Thanks to Mitch McConnell. Yeah, thanks to Mitch McConnell.
Well, I tell you what, I want to give special recognition to someone who I think is going to be considered the greatest speaker in the history of the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi.
What? Of course he would say that. Of course he would say that. She's been the worst ever in the history of this country. The worst.
Folks, the story of America is a story of progress and resilience, of always moving forward, of never, ever giving up. It's a story unique among all nations. We're the only country that has emerged from every crisis we've ever entered stronger than we got into it. Look, folks, that's what we're doing again. 2 years ago, the economy was reeling. I stand here tonight after we've created, with the help of many people in this room, 12 million new jobs. More jobs created in 2 years than any president's created in 4 years.
See,
because of
I just
you
sit there and said that.
Because of the American
I sit there and said that he was going to say that. He didn't create anything. People went back to work.
2 years ago.
That's all that happened. People went back to work. He's literally lying. Already out the bat, lying.
2 years ago.
They didn't create anything.
COVID had shut down. Our businesses were closed. Our schools were robbed of so much. And today, COVID no longer controls our lives. And 2 years ago, democracy faced its greatest threat to the Civil War. And today, though bruised, our democracy remains unbowed and unbroken.
Well, first of all, we are a constitutional republic. We are not a democracy. We utilize democracy. But, you know, Hitler said the same thing about their democracy.
We're writing the next chapter in the great American story, a story of progress and resilience. When world leaders ask me to define America, and they do, believe it or not, I say I can define it in one word, and I mean this: possibilities. We don't think anything is beyond our capacity. Everything is a possibility. You know, we're often told that Democrats and Republicans can't work together. But over the past 2 years, we've proved the cynics and naysayers wrong. Yes, we disagreed plenty. And yes, there were times when Democrats went alone. But time and again, Democrats and Republicans came together to defend a stronger and safer Europe. You came together to pass once-in-a-generation infrastructure law.
Because that's the only thing they came together with, Mitch McConnell.
We came together to pass the most significant law ever, helping victims exposed to toxic burn pits. And in fact...
And you know, that bill that he's talking about, that was talking about for veterans, but they put all this other woke stuff in there. And if Republicans didn't go along with it, they were going to use it against them. And that's the reason why some of these weak Republicans went with that.
I signed over 300 bipartisan pieces of legislation since becoming president, from reauthorizing the Violence Against Women Act, the Electoral Count Reform Act, the Respect for Marriage Act that protects the right to marry the person you love. And to my Republican friends, if we could work together the last Congress, there's no reason we can't work together and find consensus on important things in this Congress as well. I think folks, you all are as formed as I am, but I think the people sent us a clear message. Fighting for the sake of fighting, power for the sake of power, conflict for the sake of conflict gets us nowhere. That's always been my vision of our country, and I know it's many of yours. To restore the soul of this nation, to rebuild the backbone of America, America's middle class, and to unite the country. We've been sent here to finish the job, in my view. For decades, the middle class has been hollowed out in more than, and not no one administration, but for a long time. Too many good-paying manufacturing jobs move overseas. Factories closed down. Once thriving cities and towns that many of you represent became shadows of what they used to be. And along the way, something else we lost: pride, our sense of self-worth. I ran for president to fundamentally change things, to make sure our economy works for everyone, so we can all feel that pride in what we do, to build an economy from the bottom up and the middle out, not from the top down. Because when the middle class does well, the poor have a ladder up, and the wealthy still do very well. We all do well.
So how does he expect the lower caste, the lower, to come up? How does he expect them to come up? Because getting a handout from the government is not the trick.
A job's about a lot more than a paycheck. He really would say this. It's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect. It's about being able to look your kid in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay, and mean it. Well, folks, so let's look at the results. We're not finished yet by any stretch of the imagination, but unemployment rate is at 3.4%, a 50-year low. A near record. Near record unemployment.
Because people went back to work. It's not because of policies that they did.
Near record
people
unemployment
went back to
for
work.
Black and Hispanic workers. We've already created, your help, 800,000 good-paying manufacturing jobs, the fastest growth in 40 years. And where is it written? Where is it written that America can't lead the world in manufacturing? And I don't know where that's written. For too many decades, we imported projects and exported jobs. Now, thanks to what you've all done, we're exporting American products and creating American jobs. Folks,
wow.
Inflation.
Okay, he's going to talk about the inflation.
It's been a global problem because the pandemic disrupted our supply chain.
So it's been a global problem.
And Putin's unfair and brutal war
Here he goes with
in Ukraine disrupted energy supplies as well as
So
food
why
supplies,
was the inflation going up before Putin's war? Why was it going up then?
We're in better position than any country on earth right now. But we have more to do. But here at home, inflation is coming down. Here at home, gas prices are down $1.50 from their peak. Food inflation is coming down, not fast enough, but coming down. Inflation,
you hear that? He said gas is down $1.50 from the peak, but it's still higher from when he walked through the doors of the White House.
Over the last 2 years, a record 10 million Americans applied to start new businesses. 10 million. And by the way,
they're all about to get attacked by the IRS. The 87,000 armed IRS agents are about to come after every last one of them.
Every time someone starts a small business is an act of hope. And Madam Vice President, I want to thank you for leading that effort to ensure that small businesses have access to capital and the historic laws we enacted that are going to just come into being. Standing here last year, I shared.
How was that the case? Because she's been talking about sending $950 million to other countries.
Small computing.
I haven't heard her say a single thing about small businesses.
Power everything, from cell phones to automobiles and so much more. These chips were invented in America. Let's get that straight. They were invented in America. We used to make 40% of the world's chips. In the last several decades, we lost our edge. We're down to only producing 10%. We all saw what happened during the pandemic when chip factories shut down overseas. Today's automobiles need 3,000 chips, each of those automobiles. But American automobiles couldn't make enough cars because there weren't enough chips. Car prices went up, people got laid off. So did everything from refrigerators to cell phones. We can never let that happen again. That's why we came together to pass the Bipartisan Chips and Science Act.
So they passed the bill. Remember, this is the same chip bill that Nancy Pelosi bought $5 million worth of stocks before it got passed. So he cleaned up nicely. This is the same one he's talking about.
I'm saying this, but I'm not changing my view. We're going to make sure the supply chain for America begins in America. The supply chain begins in America. We've already created 800,000 new manufacturing jobs without this law, before the law kicks in. With this new law, we're going to create hundreds of thousands of new jobs across the country. And I mean all across the country, throughout not just the coast, but through the middle of the country as well. That's going to come from companies that have announced more than $300 billion in investment in American manufacturing over the next few years. Outside of Columbus, Ohio, Intel is building semiconductor factories on 1,000 acres, literally a field of dreams. It's going to create 10,000 jobs, that one investment.
Let me remind y'all of something. Remember when President Trump was in office, these companies, these businesses were meeting with President Trump like once a week. You had a new big company in there once a week, and they were coming in there making a pledge to President Trump to bring the jobs back to America. That's the reason why President Trump was breaking records when he was in office. More black people were working, more Hispanic people were working. Records. Women were starting more businesses than any other time. A lot of that, President Trump, because I'm telling you, I was looking at videos, I said, this is awesome. They were making pledges to President Trump. But I haven't seen a single company go to Joe Biden and say, we're making a pledge to bring the businesses back here. I haven't seen a single one.
I'll tell you what this means for their communities. We're seeing these field of dreams transform to the heartland. But to maintain the strongest economy in the world, we need the best infrastructure in the world. And folks,
here go the green stinking New Deal is what he's talking about.
As you all know,
this is exactly
we
what
used
talking
to
about.
be
The
number
green
one in the
New
world
Deal.
in infrastructure. We've sunk to 13th in the world. The United States of America, 13th in the world in infrastructure.
13th. And guess
But
who's
now we're coming
over?
back because we came
the
together
transportation,
and passed the bipartisan infrastructure law, the largest
which is a part of that,
since President Eisenhower's
Pete
interstate highway
Buttigieg,
system.
the pothole man. Pete Buttigieg,
Folks,
the pothole man.
Already we've funded over 20,000 projects, including major airports from Boston to Atlanta to Portland. Projects that are going to put thousands of people to work rebuilding our highways, our bridges, our railroads, our tunnels, ports, airports, clean water, high-speed internet, all across America. Urban, rural, tribal. And folks, we're just getting started. We're just getting started.
You see, he's about to do that whisper. We're just getting started.
I mean it sincerely.
He's about to do it. I think they told him to stop doing it.
I want to thank my Republican friends who voted for the law, and my Republican friends who voted against it as well. But I still get asked to fund the projects in those districts as well. But don't worry. I promised I'd be a president for all Americans. We'll fund these projects.
That's not true.
And I'll see you at the groundbreaking.
That's not true at all. He's not for all Americans.
Look.
He demonized half the country.
This law.
This dude is lying through his teeth.
This law will further unite all of America. Projects like Brent Spence Bridge in Kentucky over the Ohio River, built 60 years ago.
He's talking about Mitch McConnell. That's Mitch McConnell's country, right?
One of the most congested freight routes, carrying $2 billion worth of freight every single day across the Ohio River. And folks, I've been talking about fixing it for decades, but we're really finally going to get it done. I went there last month with Democrats and Republicans and from both states to deliver a commitment of $1.6 billion for this project.
Mitch McConnell sold out the Republican Party, and he's going to be there until, what, 2027, something like that?
Who's here tonight? I don't know where Sarah is. Is she up in the box? I don't know. Sarah, how are you? Well, Sarah, for 30 years, I learned, she told me she'd been a proud member of the Iron Workers Local 44, known as the Cowboys in the Sky. The folks who built Cincinnati's skyline. Sarah said she can't wait to be 10 stories above the Ohio River building that new bridge. God bless her. That's pride. And that's what we're also building. We're building back pride. Look, we're also replacing poisonous lead pipes that go into 10 million homes in America. 400,000 school and child care centers.
You know, my question is when is he going to actually get to,
drink the water,
you know, is he going to talk about actual issues, right? These are issues that are happening in different
sure.
states where governors should be handling these problems, what he's referring to. Right? These pipes in these different states, the governor should be handling it, right? So my question is when is he going to get to the actual issues that America is going through? Like his top security documents that he has in his home. Anyone, are they going to talk about that at all? I doubt it. He's going to talk about the balloon.
Projects, and again, I get criticized for this, but I make no excuses for it. We're going to buy American. We're going to buy American. Folks, and it's totally consistent with international trade rules. Buy America has been the law since 1933, but for too long, past administrations, Democrat and Republican, have fought to get around it. Not anymore. Tonight, I'm announcing new standards that require all construction materials used in federal infrastructure projects to be made in America. Made in America. I mean it.
He says, I mean it.
Lumber,
now, you know what? When President
glass,
Trump said that,
fiber optic cable,
they all had an issue with it.
On my watch, American roads, bridges, and American highways are going to be made with American products as well. Folks, my economic plan is about investing in places and people that have been forgotten. So many of you listening to me tonight, I know you feel it. So many of you felt like you've just simply been forgotten. Amid the economic upheaval of the past 4 decades, too many people have been left behind and treated like they're invisible. Maybe that's you watching from home. Remember the jobs that went away. You remember them, don't you? The folks at home remember them. You wonder whether the path even exists anymore for your children to get ahead without having to move away. Well, that's why I get that. That's why we're building an economy where no one's left behind. Jobs are coming back. Pride is coming back because choices we made in the last several years.
Have y'all noticed how many times he said pride is coming back?
This is, in my view, a blue-collar blueprint to rebuild America and make a real difference in your lives at home. For example,
have y'all noticed that?
Too many of you lay in bed at night like my dad did, staring at the ceiling, wondering what in God's name happens if your spouse gets cancer, or your child gets deadly ill, or something happens to you. What are you going to have? You get money to pay for those medical bills? Or you're going to have to sell the house or try to get a second mortgage on it. I get it. I get it. With the Inflation Reduction Act that I signed into law, we're taking on powerful interest to bring health care costs down so you can sleep better at night with more security.
Now, you know what? There's so many strings attached to that because people have actually tried to go get help. They try to get assistance. People try to get assistance. And Joe Biden, because of his policies, when they go to the hospital, you have to have prerequisites. There are certain things that you have to have before they allow you to get any procedure. Y'all know what I'm talking about. And this is because of the result of the Democrats. They've actually been doing this, and they've been hurting families, hurting people all over the place.
$400 to $500 a month, making record profits. Not anymore. Not anymore. So many things that we did are only now coming to fruition. We said we were doing this, and we said we passed the law to do it, but people didn't know because the law didn't take effect until January 1 of this year. We capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month for seniors on Medicare. People are just finding out. I'm sure you're getting the same calls I'm getting.
So what a lot of people don't understand is that under President Trump, he had already done that, and then when he came into the White House, it went right back up. And then it's just so that he can bring it back down and make it look like that he's the one doing it, like he's looking out for the people.
But he had $35. Folks, the big farms are going to do very well, I promise you all. I promise you they're going to do very well. This law also caps and won't even go into effect until 2025. It costs out-of-pocket drug costs for seniors on Medicare at a maximum of $2,000 a year. You don't have to pay more than $2,000 a year, no matter how much your drug costs are. Because you know why? You all know it. Many of you, like many in my family, have cancer. You know the drugs can range from $10,000, $11,000, $14,000, $15,000 for the cancer drugs. And if drug prices rise faster than inflation, drug companies are going to have to pay Medicare back the difference. Or finally.
So I have a question. What about all of the eggs? Right? What about the eggs? Is it going to put a cap on the eggs? Is it going to put a cap on meat? Is it going to put a cap on the grocery store because people go in there? Is it going to put a cap on the gas? Because even though he's trying to take credit for gas going back up or going down because, they depleted our national reserves, the gas is actually going back up. But he's going to try to convince everyone that the gas is going down. Like they're doing everything. And he's talking about Medicare. Look, our country is hurting because everything has gone up because of the inflation. Inflation was a record high under this dude, and it comes down a little bit, and he says, we're bringing it down, basically telling everyone to stop complaining because we're bringing it down. But it's still, when President Trump, it was 1.4, and it's still over 7%. That is crazy. 40-year high still.
Say lots of luck in your senior year. Make no mistake, if you try anything to raise the cost of precision jobs, I will veto it. Look, I'm pleased to say that more Americans have health insurance now than ever in history. A record 16 million people are enrolled in the Affordable Care Act. And thanks to the law I signed last year, saving millions are saving $800 a year on their premiums. And by the way, that law was written and the benefit expires in 2025. So my plea to some of you, at least in this audience, let's finish the job and make these savings permanent. Expand coverage of Medicaid.
So basically, he's going to raise the taxes of everybody in America. Someone has to pay for it.
Look, the Inflation
notice he doesn't
Reduction Act
mention
is
that.
also the most significant investment ever in climate change. Ever. Lowering utility bills, creating American jobs, leading the world to a clean energy future. I visited the devastating aftermath of record floods, droughts, storms, and wildfires from Arizona to Mexico to all the way up to the Canadian border. More timber has been burned, as I've observed from helicopters, than the entire state of Missouri.
So he's going to blame everything on what's happening because with their woke agenda that they're trying to push. Y'all hear about the earthquake in the Middle East? Y'all hear about the earthquake in Syria? The last report I saw on it was over 7,200 people died in that earthquake. So basically, if you pay your carbon tax, the way I understand it, the way they're pushing it, if we get all the countries to pay in their carbon tax, you can prevent earthquakes. Is that it? I'm asking the question here. Me personally, I know that's not the case, but the way they're pushing it, they're literally saying that, hey, all that will go away. You just pay. And this is another agenda that they're pushing. It's another one world globalist agenda.
To be responsible stewards of our land. Let's face reality. The climate crisis doesn't care if you're in a red or blue state. It's an existential threat. We have an obligation, not to ourselves, but to our children and grandchildren, to confront it. I'm proud of how America, at last, is stepping up to the challenge. We're still going to need oil and gas for a while. But guess what? No, we do.
Now the Republicans are clapping on that.
There's so much more to do.
See, you notice they didn't go to the pan to the crowd and see the Democrats'
reaction. We pay
reaction.
for these investments in our future by finally making the wealthiest and biggest corporations begin to pay their fair share.
Oh my goodness! See, now you got. See, now look, y'all see this? Y'all see this? Now the camera's pan to the Democrats to see them clapping, right? To get everyone to pay their fair share.
I'm a capitalist, but pay your fair share.
That's not a capitalist movement. This dude is an idiot.
I think a lot of you at home agree with me and many people that you know.
What?
The tax system is not fair. It is not fair.
What? This dude is not a capitalist.
Look.
This dude is not a capitalist. He's a total communist.
The idea that in 2020,
oh my goodness,
55 of the largest corporations in America, the Fortune 500, made $40 billion in profits and paid zero in federal taxes? Zero? Folks, it's simply not fair. But now, because of the law I signed, billion-dollar companies have to pay a minimum of 15%. God love them. 15%.
And guess what?
That's less than a nurse pays.
And guess what? They're going to take that money and want to apply it to woke agendas. Not anything that's going to benefit the American people. These people do not know how to manage money. This is the reason why we have a $31 trillion debt right now.
Penny in taxes. Nobody, not one penny.
You hear that? He's lying again.
Well, let's finish the job. There's more to do. We have to reward work, not just wealth. Pass my proposal for the billionaire minimum tax. You know, there's 1,000 billionaires in America. It's up from about 600 in the beginning of the term. But no billionaire should be paying a lower tax rate than a school teacher or firefighter. Well, I mean it. Think about it. I mean, look.
Then how about we do a flat tax?
No, you aren't enthusiastic about that, but think about it.
How about we do a flat tax?
Have you noticed Big Oil just reported its profits, record profits? Last year they made $200 billion in the midst of a global energy crisis. I think it's outrageous. Why? They invested too little of that profit to increase domestic production. And when I talk to a couple of them, they say, we're afraid you're going to shut down all the oil wells, all the oil refineries anyway, so why should we invest in them? I said, we're going to need oil for at least another decade, and that's going to exceed and beyond that. We're going to need it. Production. If they had, in fact, invested in the production to keep gas prices down, instead, they used the record profits to buy back their own stock, rewarding their CEOs and shareholders. Corporations ought to do the right thing. That's why I propose we quadruple the tax on corporate stock buybacks and encourage long-term investments.
So again, what happened to a flat tax? They won't talk about a flat tax. Let's just say it's just 15% across the board. Then the same will be for the teacher, for the billionaire. Because 15% of $1 billion is a lot more than 15% of $1,000. A lot more. But see, they don't talk about that. They want to charge the billionaire 43, 44, if not 70% of their income. That's what they want.
In the last 2 years, my administration has cut the deficit by more than $1.7 trillion. The largest deficit reduction in American history.
You hear this?
Under the previous administration, the American deficit went up 4 years in a row. Because those record deficits, no president added more to the national debt in any 4 years than my predecessor. Nearly 25% of the entire national debt that took over 200 years to accumulate was added by just one administration alone, the last one.
Oh, my goodness.
They're the facts. Check it out.
You hear the Republicans, they're like, whatever, you're lying. Dude is straight up lying.
How did Congress respond to that debt?
Dude
They
is
did the right
lying.
thing. They lifted the debt ceiling 3 times without preconditions or crisis. They paid American bills to prevent an economic disaster in the country. So tonight I'm asking the Congress
But
to
they
follow
didn't
suit.
have the woke agendas
Let's commit
in
here
there.
tonight to the full faith and credit of the United States of America.
For some reason, he keeps leaving that part out. The Republicans didn't have all this wokeness in there. The woke pork is decayed woke pork. They didn't have that in there. They had stuff that was actually benefiting the American people. They're wanting to increase the deficit for wokeism. There's a huge difference here. And a lot of people don't understand that.
The sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority. Let me give you, anybody who doubts it, contact my office. I'll give you a copy.
He's lying.
I'll give you a copy of the proposal. That means Congress doesn't vote. Well, I'm glad to see you. No, I tell you, I enjoy conversion. You know, it means if Congress doesn't keep the programs the way they are, they'd go away. Other Republicans say, I'm not saying it's a majority of you. I don't even think it's even a significant, but it's being proposed by individuals. I'm not politely not naming them, but it's being proposed by some of you.
Dude is lying.
Folks,
This is, I mean, dude is so disgusting. I know, you know, a lot of people say, I can't even stand it, just seeing him. I can't stand hearing him.
Threatened to default on the debt if we don't respond. Folks,
get rid of the wokeism. Get rid of targeting children trying to change their sexuality. Get rid of that spending. That should not even be there.
So
get rid
folks,
of the spending to sending money to other countries.
Agree.
Should not be there.
Social Security and Medicare is off the books now, right?
Listen,
not to be started.
See? You hear this?
All right.
This is another lie, straight up lie. Even the fake fact checkers come out and say, well, you know what? The fact checkers even came out and said Social Security by the Republicans. Listen, they're bringing up Social Security like the Republicans are going to attack it.
Social Security and Medicare are a lifeline for millions of seniors. Americans have to pay into them from the very first paycheck they started. So tonight, let's all agree, and apparently we are, let's stand up for seniors.
No Republican is against seniors having Social
Stand up
Security.
and show
None
them.
of them.
Will not cut Social Security.
You hear this?
Will not cut Medicare.
You hear this? That's what you call
Those
straight up
benefits belong to the
fear
American
mongering.
people, they earned it. And if anyone tries to cut Social Security, which apparently no one's going to do,
You hear that?
and if
But he
anyone
has to say
tries to cut Medicare,
You hear it?
I'll stop them. I'll
He said
veto it.
apparently no one is trying to do. He just sit
I'm
there
not
and said
gonna allow
it.
them
No
to
one
take
is
away,
apparently trying to
Be
do.
taken away. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. But apparently it's not going to be a problem.
See, apparently it's
Next
not going to be a
month-
problem. And you notice he said apparently it's not going to be a problem, but the only reason why he's bringing it up because he wants people to believe that the Republicans possibly will take your Social Security away. That is another fear tactic. But he says apparently it's not going away.
Let's do that.
So why even say it?
I can tell you, the plan I'm going to show you is going to cut the deficit by another $2 trillion. And it won't cut a single bit of Medicare or Social Security. In fact, we're going to extend the Medicare Trust Fund at least 2 decades, because that's going to be the next argument. How do we keep it solvent, right? Well, we'll not raise tax on anyone making under 400 grand, but we'll pay for it the way we talked about tonight, by making sure that the wealthy and big corporations pay their fair share. Look. Here's the deal.
Is this socialism
They're not just
again?
taking advantage of the tax code. They're taking advantage of you, the American consumer. Here's my message to all of you out there. I have your back. We're already preventing Americans from receiving surprise medical bills, stopping $1 billion surprise bills per month so far. We're protecting seniors'
How many of y'all
life savings
believe that Joe Biden has your
by
back?
cracking down on nursing homes that commit fraud, endanger patient safety, prescribe drugs that are not needed. Millions of Americans can now save thousands of dollars because they can finally get a hearing aid over the counter without a prescription. Look, capitalism without competition is not capitalism. It's extortion. It's exploitation. Last year, I cracked down with the help of many of you on foreign shipping companies that were making you pay higher prices for every good coming into the country. I signed a bipartisan bill that cuts shipping costs by 90%, helping American farmers, businessmen, and consumers. Let's finish the job. Pass the bipartisan legislation to strengthen antitrust enforcement and prevent big online platforms from giving their own products an unfair advantage.
This dude is lying. Remember the shipping yards that were blocked up with all this all the products coming into the country because it happened under him? This dude is literally lying.
Those hidden surcharges too many companies use to make you pay more. For example, we're making airlines show you the full ticket price up front, refund your money if your flight is canceled or delayed. We reduced exorbitant bank overdrafts by saving consumers more than $1 billion a year. We're cutting credit card late fees by 75% from $30 to $8. Look, junk fees may not matter to the very wealthy, but they matter to most other folks in homes like the one I grew up in, like many of you did. They add up to hundreds of dollars a month. They make it harder for you to pay your bills or afford that family trip. I know how unfair it feels when a company overcharges you and gets away with it.
So you know what's going to happen is that these businesses that are going to lose money, if they're going to pass they're going to pass that on to the consumer. It's just like they do everything else. Remember, they give a tax credit if you buy an electric vehicle. I think it was like $7,000 for some vehicles. Well, guess what they did? All they did was increase the price of the vehicle. The same thing is going to happen with the credit card companies. They're going to pass on their losses to you and I. So they're not going to lose anything. It's just going to make the Biden doing this just like, oh, yeah, it's so great. It's so great. But they're still going to raise everything.
Fees up front. And will prohibit airlines from charging $50 round trip for a family just to be able to sit together. Baggage fees are bad enough. Airlines can't treat your child like a piece of baggage. Americans are tired of being. We're tired of being played for suckers. So pass.
Then maybe you should leave.
Pass the Junk-Free Prevention Act so companies stop ripping us off. For too long.
What about what the government's doing to us?
Stiffed, but not anymore. We're beginning to restore the dignity of work. For example, I should have known this, but I didn't until 2 years ago. 30 million workers have to sign non-compete agreements for the jobs they take. 30 million. So a cashier at a burger place can't walk across town and take the same job at another burger place and make a few bucks more. It just changed.
I don't buy that.
We exposed it.
I don't buy that.
That was part of the deal, guys. Look it up.
That's not the same as working at, for example, a news network.
We're banning those agreements so companies
one
have to
thing if you
compete
work
for
at the Communist News Network and then you go work over at Fox News. I don't buy that. I know plenty of people that work jobs at a burger joint and then they work at another food joint.
This is bound to get a response from my friends on my left but the right. I'm so sick and tired of companies breaking the law by preventing workers from organizing. Pass the PRO Act.
You hear this? They want to unionize everything because they know the union pour money into the Democrat Party. That's what he's talking about right there.
Let's guarantee all workers have a living wage. Let's make sure working parents can afford to raise a family with sick days, paid family medical leave.
Who's going to pay for it?
Affordable child care.
Who's going to pay for it?
That's going to enable millions of more people to go and stay at work. And let's restore the full child tax credit, which gave tens of millions of parents some breathing room and cut child poverty in half to the lowest level in history. And by the way, when we do all these things, we increase productivity. We increase economic growth. So let's finish the job and get more families access to affordable, quality housing. Let's get seniors who want to stay in their homes the care they need to do so. Let's give more breathing room to millions of family caregivers looking after their loved ones. Pass my plan so we get seniors and people with disabilities the home care and services they need. And support the workers who are...
You know what they always do is that they talk about stuff that everyone would agree with. You know, we need to take care of our brothers and sisters in this country. But the problem that comes into play is that they attack wokeism with all of the crap that they're pushing through. They only talk about the stuff on the surface. They never talk about all of the other junk and crap that they have tagged onto it.
But the rest of the world's caught up. It's caught up. Jill, my wife, who teaches full-time, has an expression. I hope I get it right, kid. Any nation that out-educates us is going to out-compete us.
She teaches
Any nation
full-time?
out-educates is going to out-compete us. Folks, we all know 12 years of education is not enough to win the economic competition of the 21st century.
So she teaches full-time?
You want to have the best educated workforce, let's
Is she
finish
teaching
the
full-time
job.
at Biden-Pence Center?
By providing access
where's she
to
teaching
preschool
full-time at?
for 3 and 4 years old. Studies show that children who go to preschool are nearly 50% more likely to finish high school and go on to earn a 2 or 4 year degree, no matter their background they came from.
That's not true.
Let's give public school teachers a raise.
That's not true.
We're making progress by reducing student debt, increasing Pell Grants.
Oh, my goodness.
For working and middle-class families. Let's finish the job and connect students to career opportunities starting in high school. Provide access to 2 years of community college, the best career training in America, in addition to being a pathway to a 4-year degree. Let's offer every American a path to a good career, whether they go to college or not.
Make sure they pay off their student loans.
Folks, in the midst of the COVID crisis,
What happened to being the
the
capitalist?
schools were closed, and we were shutting down everything. Let's recognize how far we came in the fight against the pandemic itself. While the virus is not gone, thanks to the resilience of the American people and the ingenuity of medicine, we've broken the COVID grip on us. COVID deaths are down by...
This dude is actually pushing all of these lies onto everybody in America, and they're expecting everybody to just jump on board and not even question it. These Democrats, every last one of them, and they're clapping. Joe Biden could be saying, he could be talking at the side of his neck. They would not care. They would just clap. And they're pushing this demonic stuff onto our children and our society, and they know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. And a lot of people like, I can't stand Joe. I'm like, every now and then I glance over here and I look at the comments, and people are like, man, I can't even watch it. One person said, well, I just can't listen to this dude. He disgusts me. He's repulsive. And again, he hadn't brought up anything about the balloon. He hadn't brought up anything about the highly classified documents. Not a single thing. Right? These are things that the American people want to know about. He hasn't said anything about that. Right? This is what we want to know about. But all this wokeism, that's what their main agenda is about with all of this. Now, has he said anything? I haven't heard him say anything about the MAGA Republicans yet.
During that campaign, the big issue was about inspector generals who would protect taxpayers' dollars who were sidelined. They were fired. Many people said we don't need them. And fraud became rampant. Last year, I told you the watchdogs are back. Since then, we've recovered billions of taxpayers' dollars. Now let's triple the anti-fraud strike force going after these criminals, double the statute of limitations on these crimes, and crack down on identity fraud by criminal syndicates stealing billions of dollars from the American people.
Well, what about all of the illegals coming into the country stealing
The data
identities?
shows that
If
for
he
every
actually
dollar
wants
we
to
put into
prevent
fighting
this, he'll
fraud,
prevent the
taxpayers
illegals
get
from
back
coming
at
into
least
the
10
country.
times as much. It matters. It matters. Look, COVID left its scars, like the spike in violent crime in 2020, the first year of the pandemic. We have an obligation to make sure all people are safe. Public safety depends on public trust, as all of us know. But too often that trust is violated. Joining us tonight are the parents of Tyree Nichols.
Oh, here we go.
Welcome.
Here we go. What about all the other mothers and fathers that have lost their children? right?
Had to
They're
bury
there
Tyree
because this is an
last
attack
week.
on police officers.
As many of you personally know, there's no words to describe the heartache or grief of losing a child. But imagine if you lost that child at the hands of the law.
Listen.
Imagine having to worry whether your son or daughter came home from walking down the street, or playing in the park, or just driving a car. Most of us in here have never had to have the talk, that brown and black parents have had to have with their children. Bo, Hunter, Ashley, my children, I never had to have the talk with them.
Wow.
I never had to tell them if a police officer pulls you over, turn your interior lights on right away.
Why not?
Don't reach for your license. Keep your hands on the steering wheel.
What?
Imagine having to worry like that every single time
What?
your kid got in a car. Here's what Tyree's mother shared with me when I spoke to her. When I asked her how she finds the courage to carry on and speak out. The faith of God, she said her son was, quote, a beautiful soul, and something good will come of this. Imagine how much courage and character that takes. It's up to us, to all of us. We all want the same thing. Neighborhoods free of violence. Law enforcement who earns the community's trust. Just as every cop, when they pin on that badge in the morning, has a right to be able to go home at night, so does everybody else out there. Our children have a right to come home safely. Equal protection under the law is a covenant we have with each other in America.
Really? Really? I don't think so.
We
Because
know
you would be
police officers put their lives
jail
on the line
right
every
now.
single night and day. And we know we ask them in many cases to do too much, to be counselors, social workers, psychologists, responding to drug overdoses, mental health crises, and so much more. In one sense, we ask much too much of them. I know most cops and their families are good, decent, honorable people, the vast majority. But they risk
But they're wanting to defund them. They're wanting to disarm them.
and they risk their lives every time they put that shield on. But what happened to Tyree in Memphis happens too often. We have to do better. Give law enforcement
That's
the real
not true.
training they need. Hold them to higher standards. Help them succeed in keeping us safe. We also need more first responders and professionals to address the growing mental health, substance abuse challenges. More resources to reduce violent crime and gun crime. More community intervention programs. More investment in housing, education, and job training. All this can help prevent violence in the first place. And when police officers or police departments violate the public trust, they must be held accountable.
Wow, you hear this?
With the support,
So what about the FBI? Is the FBI going to be held
support
accountable? Is the CIA
families
going to be
of
held
victims.
accountable? Is the
civil
DOJ
rights
going to be
groups,
held
and law
accountable?
enforcement, I signed an executive order for all federal officers banning chokeholds, restricting no-knock warrants, and other key elements of the George Floyd Act.
See?
Let's commit ourselves to make the
See?
words of Tyler's mom true. Something good must come from this. Something good. And all of us, all of us,
I don't know about y'all, but this is the deliberate attack on the police department throughout the country. And they're trying to act like that they're trying to help. Disarming the police officers, defunding them is not helping.
In this chamber, we need to rise to this moment. We can't turn away. Let's do what we know in our hearts that we need to do. Let's come together to finish the job on police reform. Do something.
You see that? You see
Do
this?
something. That was the plea of parents who lost their children in Uvalde. I met with every one of them. Do something about gun violence. Thank God.
You hear it? There it is.
Thank God we did.
See, now here comes the
Passing
gun
most
control.
sweeping gun safety law in 3 decades. That includes things like that the majority of responsible gun owners already support. Enhanced background checks for 18 to 21 years old. Red flag laws. Keeping guns out of the hands of people who are a danger to themselves and others.
Dan Crenshaw
but we know our work
supports
is not done. Joining us tonight is Brandon Say, a 26-year-old hero. Brandon put his college dreams on hold to be at his mom's side. His mom's side when she was dying from cancer. And Brandon now works at the dance studio started by his grandparents. And 2 weeks ago, during the Lunar New Year celebrations, he heard the studio door close, and he saw a man standing there pointing a semi-automatic pistol at him. He thought he was going to die, but he thought about the people inside. And in that instant, he found the courage to act and wrestled a semi-automatic pistol away from the gunman who had already killed 11 people in another dance studio. 11. He saved lives. It's time we do the same. Ban assault weapons now. Ban them now.
See, you see that? He went from talking about a pistol. You see that? A pistol. Ban assault weapons. A semi-automatic pistol.
I led the fight to do that.
Semi-automatic pistol. Then he's talking about banning all assault weapons. What's an assault weapon?
Years.
Give a description of assault weapon. This is straight up tyranny. This is exactly why people don't like this dude, because this dude come out here and lie. He done it. He's talking at the side of his neck. They want to ban all guns.
And let's also come together on immigration. Make it a bipartisan issue once again. We know we now have a record number of personnel working to secure the border, arresting 8,000 human smugglers, seizing over 23,000 pounds of fentanyl in just the last several months. We've launched a new border plan last month. Unlawful migration from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela has come down 97% as a consequence of that. But American border problems won't be fixed until Congress acts. If we don't pass my comprehensive immigration reform,
finish the wall, you idiot.
At least pass my plan to provide the equipment and officers to secure the border.
Finish the wall. Finish the stinking wall.
And a pathway
this dude
to
is not trying to secure our borders. Finish the wall.
Those on temporary status, farm workers, essential workers. Here in the People's House, it's our duty to protect all the people's rights and freedoms. Congress must restore the right and the Congress must restore the right that was taken away in Roe v. Wade and protect Roe v. Wade. Give every woman a constitutional right. The Vice President and I are doing everything to protect access to reproductive health care and safeguard patient safety. But already more than a dozen states are enforcing extreme abortion bans. Make no mistake about it. If Congress passes a national ban, I will veto it. But let's also pass.
It'll never get through the Senate. He's just doing a talking point right now. What the Supreme Court did was put it back to the states the way it should have been, the way the U.S. Constitution intended it to be.
Our strength is not just the example of our power, but the power of our example. Let's remember the world's watching.
Yeah, they are.
I spoke in this chamber 1 year ago, just days after Vladimir Putin unleashed his brutal attack against Ukraine. A murderous assault, evoking images of death and destruction Europe suffered in World War II. Putin's invasion has been a test for the ages, a test for America, a test for the world.
Look at that, and they show the woke generals right there. These woke generals that aren't doing anything. And where's this one particular group with the particular letter Q? Remember? I'm just asking the question. I want to know, where's the military that they kept talking about?
Because it keeps peace and prevents open season on would-be aggressors and threatens our prosperity.
What about the balloon?
1 year later, we know the answer. Yes, we would, and we did. We did.
Man, this dude is in the verge of taking us to World War III.
We did what America always does at our best. We led. We united NATO. We built a global coalition. We stood against Putin's aggression. We stood with the Ukrainian people. Tonight, we're once again joined by Ukrainian's ambassador to the United States. She represents not just her nation, but the courage of her people. Our ambassador is here, we're united in our support of your country. Will you stand so we can all take a look at you? Thank you. Because we're going to stand with you as long as it takes. Our nation is working for
They're going to make
freedom,
sure
more
the
dignity,
airspace
more
over Ukraine
peace,
is protected.
not just in Europe, but everywhere. Before I came to office, the story was about how the People's Republic of China was increasing its power and America was failing in the world. Not anymore. We made clear, and I made clear in my personal conversations, which have been many, with President Xi, that we seek competition, not conflict. But I will make no apologies that we're investing to make America stronger. Investing in American innovation and industries that will define the future that China intends to be dominating. Investing in our alliances and working with our allies to protect advanced technologies so they will not be used against us.
Like a balloon.
Modernizing our military to safeguard stability and deter aggression.
Like a balloon.
Today, we're in the strongest position in decades to compete with China or anyone else in the world.
No, we're not, apparently. You can't even handle a balloon. You can't even handle a balloon. What is he talking about? I think I can hear Marjorie Taylor Greene say something a minute ago. It sounded like her.
To benefit the world, but make no mistake about it. As we made clear last week, if China threatens our sovereignty, we will act to protect our country, and we did.
Wow! What?
Look,
are you kidding me? This dude is lying. I mean, he's literally lying. Does he not remember the balloon in the sky?
Competition should unite all of us. We face serious challenges across the world. But in the past 2 years, democracies have become stronger, not weaker. Autocracy has grown weaker, not stronger.
Oh, my goodness.
Name me a world leader who changed places with Xi Jinping. Name me one. Name me one.
You.
America's rallying the world to meet those challenges, from climate to global health to food insecurity to terrorism.
Oh, my goodness. This
territorial
dude is such an
Allies
idiot.
are stepping up, spending more, and doing more.
How about you do more? Step up for the American people. He's not doing that.
Between partners in the Pacific and those in the Atlantic. And those
is he talking about the balloon from the Pacific to the Atlantic? Is that what he's talking about?
It's never, ever been a good bet to bet against America. Never.
Right, but China doesn't care. America is weak because of this dude. America appears to be weak.
Well, when I came to office, most assured that bipartisanship assumed was impossible, but never believed it. That's why a year ago I offered a unity agenda to the nation as I stood here. We made real progress together. We passed a law making it easy for doctors to prescribe effective treatments for opioid addiction. We passed the gun safety law, making historic investments in mental health. We launched the ARPA-H drive for breakthrough.
What about all the doctors
cancer,
that they
Alzheimer's,
penalized because they didn't go with the wokeism? What about those doctors?
Passed the Heath Robinson PACT Act, named after the late Iraq War veteran whose story about exposure to toxic burn kits I shared here last year.
So now he's repeating himself. Now he's going back over what he's already said. Who wrote this for him? He's already talked about that. He's emphasizing it.
I understand something about those burn pits, but there's so much more to do. We can do it together. Joining us tonight is a father named Doug from Newton, New Hampshire. He wrote Jill, my wife, a letter, and me as well, about his courageous daughter, Courtney. A contagious laugh, his sister's best friend, her sister's best friend. He shared a story all too familiar to millions of Americans and many of you in the audience. Courtney discovered pills in high school. It spiraled into addiction and eventually death from a fentanyl overdose. She was just 20 years old.
Well, that's all your
Describing
fault.
the last 8 years without her, Doug said, "There's no worse pain." Yet their family has turned pain to purpose, working to end the stigma and change laws. He told us he wants to start a journey toward American recovery. Doug, we're with you. Fentanyl is killing more than 70,000 Americans a year.
Close the border. Close the border, you idiot. Close the border, you idiot. Those deaths are on your hands.
So let's launch a major surge to stop fentanyl production and the sale and trafficking with more drug detection machines, inspection cargo, stop pills and powder at the border.
Close
Working
the
with
border
couriers
wall.
like FedEx to inspect more packages for drugs. Strong penalties to crack down on fentanyl trafficking. Second, let's do more on mental health, especially for our children. When millions of young people are struggling with bullying, violence, trauma, we owe them greater access to mental health care at their schools. We must finally hold social media companies accountable for experimenting they're doing running children for profit.
Okay, what
It's time
about
to
the
pass
FBI working with Social
legislation
Security, with these
to
big
stop
tech companies?
Big tech from collecting personal data on our kids.
What
and
about the
teenagers
FBI
online.
and big tech?
Ban targeted advertising to children and impose
Ban
stricter
the
limits
banning of
on the
conservatives.
personal data that companies collect on all of us. Third, let's do more to keep this nation's one truly sacred obligation to equip those we send into harm's way and care for them and their families when they come home. Job training, job placement for veterans and their spouses as they come to return to civilian life. Helping veterans afford the rent, because no one should be homeless in America, especially someone who served the country.
Knowing good and well they don't care about big tech, what they're doing. He's just saying it.
Dennis McDonough is here of the VA. We had a first real discussion when I asked him to take the job. I'm glad he did. We were losing up to 25 veterans a day on suicide. Now we're losing 17 a day to the silent scourge of suicide. 17 veterans a day are committing suicide. More than all the people being killed in the wars. Folks, VA is doing everything it can, including expanding mental health screening, proven programs that recruits veterans to help other veterans understand what they're going through, get them the help they need. We got to do more. And fourth, last year, Jill and I reignited the cancer moonshot that I was able to start with President Obama asked me to lead our administration on this issue.
Let me say this real quick about the vets. You know, all of these military bases that they shut down. Can you imagine if they put a memo out there and tell all the vets to show up to these military bases? They would be happy to show up. Give them uniforms, allow them to put the rank back on their shoulder, allow them to take care of that facility. They would be happy to do it because they'll feel like they're back in their element. They feel like they'll have purpose again. But for some reason, they don't want to do that. It's a no-brainer for me. I don't understand why they don't do that.
He wrote us a letter about his little daughter, Ava, and I saw her just before I came over. She was just a year old when she was diagnosed with rare kidney disease, cancer. After 26 blood transfusions, 11 rounds of radiation, 8 rounds of chemo, 1 kidney removed, giving a 5% survival rate. He wrote how in the darkest moments he thought, if she goes, I can't stay. Many of you have been through that as well. Jill and I understand that, like so many of you. And he read Jill's book describing our family's cancer journey and how we tried to steal moments of joy where we could with Bo. For them, that glimmer of joy was the half smile of their baby girl. It meant everything to them. They never gave up hope. Little Ava never gave up hope. She turns 4 next month. They just found out Ava's beating the odds, is on her way to being cured of cancer. And she's watching from the White House tonight, and she's not asleep already. For the lives we can save. For the lives we can save and the lives we've lost, let this be a truly American moment that rallies the country and the world together and proves that we can still do big things. 20 years ago, under the leadership of President Bush and countless advocates and champions, he undertook a bipartisan effort through PEPFAR to transform the global fight against HIV/AIDS. It's been a huge success. He thought big. He thought large. He moved. I believe we can do the same thing with cancer. Let's end cancer as we know it. Cure some cancers once and for all. Folks, there's one reason why we've been able to do all of these things. Our democracy itself. It's the most fundamental thing of all. With democracy, everything's possible. Without it, nothing is. For the last few years, our democracy has been threatened and attacked, put at risk, put to the test in this very room on January the 6th. And then just a few months ago, an unhinged big lie assailed and unleashed a political violence, the home of the then Speaker of the House of Representatives, using the very same language the insurrectionists used as they stalked these halls and chanted on January 6th. Here tonight in this chamber is a man who bears the scars of that brutal attack, but is as tough and as strong and as resilient as they get. My friend Paul Pelosi. Paul, stand up.
Paul Pelosi got hammered. Really? How do you make that connection from January to what he was doing in his home? And there's a lot more to that story that they're not letting out. Now, I saw the video. It's pretty horrible.
Such a heinous act should have never happened.
Right? It was pretty horrible.
All speak out.
But how do you make that connection? That dude was a total leftist.
We have to protect the right to vote, not
sodomite flag.
Fundamental right.
He had the sodomite flag in his bus. He had a BLM paraphernalia in his bus. Dude was a total leftist. Where's the connection? This is him lying, making that connection.
Safe harbor. Democracy must not be a partisan issue. It's an American issue. Every generation of Americans has faced a moment where they have been called to protect our democracy, defend it, stand up for it. And this is our moment. My fellow Americans, we meet tonight at an inflection point, one of those moments that only a few generations ever face, where the direction we now take is going to decide the course of this nation for decades to come. We're not bystanders of history. We're not powerless before the forces that confront us. It's within our power of we the people. We're facing the test of our time. We have to be the nation we've always been at our best, optimistic, hopeful, forward-looking. A nation that embraces light over dark, hope over fear, unity over division, stability over chaos. We have to see each other not as enemies, but as fellow Americans. We're good people. The only nation in the world built on an idea, the only one. Other nations are defined by geography, ethnicity, but we're the only nation based on an idea that all of us, every one of us, is created equal in the image of God.
No, listen to this.
A nation that stands as a beacon to the world. A nation in a new age of possibilities. So I've come to fulfill my constitutional obligation to report in the State of the Union. And here's my report.
The state of his confusion.
Because the soul of this nation is strong, because the backbone of this nation is strong, because the people of this nation are strong, the State of the Union is strong.
Wow. Wow, really? Really? People still have high gas prices. The eggs are still up through the roof. The country's in turmoil pretty much. The economy is in shambles. The recession's still high. Really?
I'm not new to this place. I stand here tonight having served as long as about any one of you have ever served here. But I've never been more optimistic about our future, about the future of America. We just have to remember who we are. We're the United States of America, and there's nothing beyond our capacity if we do it together. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you.
Well, interesting. Yeah, he didn't say anything about the MAGA Republicans. Y'all notice that? He didn't say anything. Very interesting. Very interesting. I guess they got him to get the memo. Stop being very divisive. But you know, of course, the liberal media news are going to be all over there saying that Joe Biden did a phenomenal speech. He was great at it. He was great at it. Phenomenal. He unified. Where was the unification at? Where was the unification? I want y'all to leave me a comment. Tell me where the unification was at. Because it wasn't there. It wasn't there. And he did introduce the wokeism. And you notice he kept saying pride, right? There's only one reason why the left talks about pride. There's only one reason. Hey, Patriots for USA, thank you so much for being a member, a sponsor of my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for that. Rick B, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the super chat. Baby, was it Baby Sleeps? I think that's what it is. It's some fonts. It's really weird. But thank you so much for that. Thank you. God bless you as well. We are done with these lies. Yep, I agree. And Dolly, thank you so much. Dolly says she can only watch because I'm streaming it. Thank you so much. And he is a joke. Yes, I agree. Thank you so much for the blessings. Thank you so much. That was a super chat there. And Kelly, thank you so much for the stars on Facebook. Patty, thank you so much for the stars. Amy, Dana, thank you again for the stars. Thank you so much for that. Wendy, Tammy, thank you so much for the stars. Kathy, I really do appreciate it. Facebook stars, thank you so much for the blessings. And thank you for Deborah, Debbie, Shannon, Ebony, Greg, John, April, George, Patricia, Kathy, Faye, Gina, Gil, Tracy, Sharon, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for sharing. And everyone on Rumble, thank you so much for being there. I really do appreciate it. Wow. Dude lied so much. God bless. Good night.